Have you ever wondered why the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, has been called the most mysterious, the most terrifying, and yet the most hopeful book ever written? Why is it that some people avoid reading it altogether, while others obsess over every symbol, every number, and every vision? Could it be that Revelation actually holds the secrets to understanding our present world, the wars, the plagues, the rise of technology, even the push for global control? And here is the real question. What if the events described 2,000 years ago are not just ancient prophecies, but warnings for our time right now? Think about it. How could John, living on a small island in exile, describe visions that sound like nuclear war, world surveillance systems, or even artificial intelligence? Was he simply speaking in riddles, or was he seeing the future unfold before his eyes? And why do governments, scholars, and religious leaders often disagree on what these passages mean? Are they afraid of what it truly reveals? In this video, we're not just going to skim the surface. We're going to dive deep into the hidden meanings, the shocking prophecies, and the mysteries that most people are too afraid to even talk about. But here's the catch: the further we go, the more dangerous, the more controversial, and the more fascinating it gets. The seals, the trumpets, the beast, the number 666, the battle of Armageddon, and the promise of a new heaven and new earth, it's all here. So let me ask you, are you ready to question everything you thought you knew about the Bible? Are you prepared to discover truths that might shake your faith, challenge your worldview, and maybe even change the way you see the end of history itself? Then stay with me until the very end of this video, because the next few minutes will not only reveal the secrets of Revelation, but they just might reveal the secrets of your own future. The book of Revelation is one of the most mysterious, powerful, and debated writings in the entire Bible. It has fascinated believers, scholars, and skeptics for nearly 2,000 years, and its visions still stir imaginations today. But to understand Revelation, we cannot just jump into its pages blindly. We must first step back and see how it emerged, why it was written, and how it has been interpreted throughout history. The story of Revelation is not only about prophecy, it's about power, persecution, survival, and hope. And as we journey deeper, you'll discover that every vision, every symbol, and every beast carries a meaning that connects both to the ancient world and to our world today. The further we go, the more secrets unfold, and the next chapters of this journey will only grow more intense, more mysterious, and even more revealing. Let's begin where it all starts, on the island of Patmos. It was here, around the end of the 1st century A.D., that a man named John, exiled for his faith, received extraordinary visions. Patmos was not a place of comfort. It was a barren, rocky island, often used by the Roman Empire to banish those who resisted their authority. Imagine John, cut off from his community, living in hardship, yet suddenly receiving a message from heaven itself. This is where Revelation was born, and this beginning already sets the tone. A message of hope given in the midst of suffering. But why would God choose this particular moment, this particular place, and this particular man? The next part of our journey will explore not only who John was, but also why his visions were so important for the early Christian communities, who were struggling to survive under Roman persecution. The Roman Empire at this time was vast and powerful, but it was also merciless toward those who refused to bow to Caesar. Christians were often accused of disloyalty, atheism, and rebellion simply because they would not worship the emperor or the Roman gods. This pressure created fear, but it also forced believers to ask, will our faith survive? Revelation came as an answer. It was not just a book of visions, it was a coded letter of encouragement to the persecuted. Every image of beasts, dragons, and battles carried hidden meanings about Rome and its oppressive system. When John spoke of Babylon, he wasn't speaking of the ancient city, he was pointing toward Rome. When he described the beast, many early Christians would have recognized the shadow of Caesar. But here's the interesting part. Revelation wasn't only about Rome. Its symbols reached far beyond the first century, pointing toward future events that even today we are still trying to understand. And the next layers of Revelation will pull us deeper into those mysteries. Now, think about the visions themselves. Trumpets, seals, bowls of wrath, armies of heaven, and the final victory of God. These images are not random. They follow a carefully crafted pattern. Revelation is like a cosmic drama, with act after act revealing a new part of the divine plan. First, we encounter the 7 churches, each with their own struggles and warnings. Then, the seals are broken, releasing waves of judgment. After that come the trumpets, each sounding with new disasters, followed by the bowls of wrath that pour out devastation on the earth. The repetition is intentional. It creates suspense, it shows intensity, and it makes the reader realize the history is moving towards something final, something climactic. And if you think the seals and trumpets are intense, just wait until we explore the bowls of wrath, because they take everything to another level. The next scenes will shake the very heavens and earth. But Revelation is not only about destruction, it is also about worship, glory, and hope. Throughout the visions, we see scenes of heaven where angels sing, where saints are clothed in white robes, where God is on his throne. These glimpses remind us that despite the chaos on earth, heaven is still in control. This tension between heaven's order and earth's disorder is what makes Revelation so powerful. It tells us that no matter how dark things may seem, there is a greater plan unfolding. And this is where the story takes us next. A great conflict between good and evil, symbolized by the dragon and the lamb. If you thought beasts and plagues were dramatic, the battle between the dragon and the lamb will keep you at the edge of your seat. The next part will reveal who truly rules history, and why the lamb, though slain, is the true conqueror. As we move deeper, we encounter the famous 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. These riders on white, red, black, and pale horses represent conquest, war, famine, and death. For centuries, they have captured imaginations, appearing in art, literature, and films. But to the early Christians, they weren't just dramatic figures. They were reflections of the world they were living in. Wars, food shortages, disease, and empire. The horsemen were a message that suffering is real, but also that suffering has limits. And yet, beyond the horsemen, Revelation promises that history is not a cycle of endless despair. Something greater is coming, and the next visions will begin to reveal the breaking of that cycle. Then comes one of the most mysterious parts of Revelation, the number 666, the mark of the beast. For centuries, scholars have debated who or what this beast represents. Some say it was Nero Caesar, encoded through ancient numerology. Others believe it points to future world leaders, systems of control, or even technologies that mark people in hidden ways. What is fascinating is that the symbol of the beast is not just about one figure. It is about the spirit of opposition to God that rises again and again throughout history. And just when you think you've uncovered its meaning, another layer of mystery opens. The next part of Revelation will introduce us to the beast's rival, the one called the Lamb, whose mark brings life, not death. But even as we wrestle with these symbols, Revelation keeps pushing us forward toward a final battle. The armies gather, the nations rage, and the place of conflict is called Armageddon. Few words in the Bible have sparked as much curiosity as this one. What is Armageddon? Is it a literal location? A symbolic battle? A prophecy yet to come? The mystery only deepens the further we go. And the next passages of Revelation will reveal not just the battle, but the one who rides on a white horse, leading the armies of heaven. The moment of ultimate confrontation is coming, and you will want to stay with me as we approach it. Still, before that final battle, Revelation reveals a 1,000-year reign, a millennium of peace where Christ rules with his saints. This vision has divided interpreters for centuries. Some say It is a literal 1,000 years to come. Others see it as a symbolic period already unfolding. But whichever interpretation we follow, the message is clear. God's justice will not be delayed forever. There will be a time of renewal, a time when evil is restrained and the faithful are vindicated. And yet, even after the 1,000 years, Revelation tells us that evil will rise again, one final time. That is when the last judgment comes, the great white throne, and the opening of the book of life. But don't to think the story ends there, because the next chapters of Revelation will open a door to something even greater, a new heaven and a new earth. Imagine it. The old world has passed away, and a new creation begins. The holy city, the New Jerusalem, comes down from heaven, shining with glory, prepared like a bride for her husband. The streets are of pure gold, the gates are made of pearl, and God himself dwells with his people. This is the vision that has inspired hope for countless generations. But even here, in the beauty of the New Jerusalem, mysteries remain. Who enters? Who is left outside? What does it mean that there will be no more night, no more sea, no more temple? Each answer only leads to more questions, and the next exploration of Revelation will take us deeper into these mysteries of eternity. The story of Revelation does not end neatly. It ends with a promise, a warning, and a cry. Come, Lord Jesus. It is both an ending and a beginning, both a conclusion and an invitation to keep watching, keep waiting, and keep hoping. And that's what makes Revelation so powerful. It is not only history, not only prophecy, but a living word that continues to speak today. But remember, what we've covered so far is only scratching the surface. There are countless symbols, countless debates, countless layers of meaning waiting to be uncovered. The next time we continue this journey, we will peel back those layers even further, exploring the hidden codes, the ancient prophecies that echo throughout Scripture, and the secrets of Revelation that have yet to be unlocked. The next part will be even more eye-opening, so stay with me, because the story is only just beginning. When we dive deeper into the history of Revelation, we find that its story is not only written in its own pages, but also woven throughout the rest of the Bible. The prophets of the Old Testament, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Zechariah, laid the foundation for the symbols John would later see on Patmos. The visions of beasts, horns, fire, and thrones are not new inventions. They are echoes of ancient revelations. Daniel saw beasts rising from the sea, just as John did. Ezekiel saw a throne surrounded by living creatures, just as John described. Isaiah saw a new heaven and new earth, which Revelation expands upon. This continuity tells us something incredible. Revelation is not isolated. It is the final chapter of a divine story that began long before John's exile. And the more you study those connections, the more you realize that Revelation is like the key that unlocks the rest of Scripture. The next part of our journey will reveal how these ancient prophecies converge, showing that the Bible has always been telling one consistent story from beginning to end. But to truly understand why Revelation was written, we must also look at the mindset of the early church. For those first-century believers, every day carried the risk of betrayal, imprisonment, or death. They lived in constant tension between faith and fear. For them, Revelation was not abstract, it was survival literature. Its message was that history is moving toward justice, that Rome would not reign forever, that Caesar's throne was temporary, but God's throne was eternal. Imagine being a Christian in the Roman Empire, hiding in secret, reading Revelation by the dim light of a candle. Each word would have been like fire in your soul, each vision a reminder that your suffering was not in vain. And yet, John's visions were not locked in the first century. They spoke beyond his time. They carried an urgency that still resonates today, telling us that the same struggles of power, corruption, and faith will repeat in every generation. And as we move forward, the next part will show how Revelation has been understood and misunderstood throughout the centuries. Over the last 2,000 years, Revelation has taken on many lives. In the Middle Ages, it was seen as a description of the struggles between the Church and the Empire. During the Protestant Reformation, it was interpreted as a battle between truth and corruption, with reformers identifying the papacy as the beast. In modern times, some read it as a code predicting global wars, nuclear destruction, and the rise of a one-world government. Every generation finds itself inside the pages of Revelation. And that is exactly what makes it so timeless. It adapts to the fears and hopes of every age. But here's the fascinating question. If Revelation has been applied differently in every era, does that mean its meaning changes? Or does it mean that its truth is so deep that it speaks to every era in a new way? That is what we'll explore next. The way Revelation as layers reveal timeless truths hidden beneath the surface. Let's turn to one of its most haunting images, the great prostitute, Babylon the Great, riding upon a scarlet beast. This vision is loaded with symbolism. To John's audience, Babylon was a code for Rome, the empire that persecuted believers. But notice how the description of Babylon fits not only Rome, but every empire of excess and corruption in history-lavish wealth, immoral power, and bloodshed. Babylon is not just a city of the past, it is a spirit that continues to rise again and again in different forms. Some see it in political powers, others in economic systems, others in cultural movements that reject God. And the fall of Babylon in Revelation is portrayed with such drama, the merchants of the earth weeping, the kings mourning, the ships at sea watching the smoke rise. It is a picture of sudden judgment, a reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, can stand against God's justice. But just when Babylon falls, something even greater is revealed. A wedding feast, a celebration between the Lamb and his bride. And this next part will show how that wedding feast transforms the entire meaning of history. The wedding of the Lamb is one of the most beautiful turning points in Revelation. After all the judgments, the wars, the plagues, and the destruction, we suddenly find ourselves at a feast. The contrast is striking. On one side, Babylon falls in ruin. On the other, the bride is clothed in white, ready for the Lamb. This is no ordinary wedding. It is the union of Christ with his faithful people. Every detail carries meaning. The garments of the bride are described as the righteous acts of the saints, showing that holiness is not just given but lived. And while Babylon's riches could not save her, the bride's purity prepares her for eternal celebration. Imagine the shift in tone after endless turmoil. A banquet begins. But this feast is not the end. It is the doorway into the final battles and the return of the King. And the next vision is one of the most breathtaking in all of Scripture. The rider on the white horse, whose name is faithful and true. Picture it. The heavens open, and a rider appears, clothed in glory, with eyes like flames of fire and a sword from his mouth. This is no longer the suffering Lamb. This is the conquering King, coming to wage the final war. Behind him ride the armies of heaven, dressed in pure white. The imagery is stunning. He treads the winepress of God's wrath. He rules with an iron scepter, and on his robe is written a name, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. For centuries, believers have looked to this passage as the ultimate hope, the moment when Christ returns to set all things right. But even here, mysteries remain. Who are the armies that follow him? Are they angels, saints, or both? What does it mean that his weapon is a sword from his mouth? Is this a literal war or a spiritual battle where truth defeats deception? The deeper you go, the more questions arise. And the next chapter will show us how this war climaxes in the most mysterious place of all, Armageddon. Now we arrive at Armageddon, the great battlefield of prophecy. The name itself has fueled countless theories, movies, and predictions. Some believe it refers to a literal valley in Israel, the Valley of Megiddo, where many ancient battles were fought. Others see it as a symbol for the global clash between good and evil at the end of time. What is important is not only the location, but the meaning. This is where the forces of darkness gather against the forces of God. Yet here's the twist. In Revelation, the battle is described, but not in the way you might expect. The armies gather, but the victory is almost instant. There is no drawn-out struggle, no uncertainty. Christ defeats his enemies with the word of his mouth, showing that God's power is absolute. This sudden victory reminds us that evil may seem strong, but in the presence of God, it cannot stand. Still, the story does not end here. After Armageddon, a new chapter opens, one that has sparked endless debate: the Millennium, the 1,000-year reign. And the next exploration will take us into that controversial mystery. The Millennium is one of the most debated topics in Revelation. Is it a literal 1,000 years? A symbolic age of the church? A future golden era before the final judgment? The text says that Satan is bound for 1,000 years, while Christ reigns with his saints. This period is described as peace and justice, but at its end, Satan is released once more, leading to a final rebellion. The very idea is puzzling. Why would evil be allowed to rise again after being defeated? Some see it as proof that even in a perfect environment, the human heart still needs redemption. Others see it as a final test before eternity begins. Whatever the meaning, this vision tells us that history is not random. It is carefully ordered, moving toward an ultimate purpose. And when the millennium ends, something even more dramatic unfolds: the great white throne judgment, where every soul is called to account. And the next part of our journey will bring us face to face with this ultimate moment of destiny. At the great white throne, the dead, great and small, stand before God. Books are opened, and another book, the book of life, is revealed. The imagery is overwhelming. Heaven and earth flee from God's presence, as though nothing can withstand his holiness. Those whose names are not written in the book of life are cast into the lake of fire, the second death. This is the most sobering moment in all of Revelation, a reminder that eternity hangs in the balance. But even this terrifying vision leads us forward into hope, because right after the judgment, something new begins: a new heaven and a new earth, a creation where death and pain are no more. And as powerful as this vision is, the next one will be even more breathtaking: the descent of the New Jerusalem, the holy city of God. The New Jerusalem is described in dazzling detail. Its walls are made of jasper, its streets of gold, its gates of pearl. The city shines with the glory of God, and there is no temple, because God himself is its temple. The river of life flows through it, and the tree of life grows on its banks, bearing fruit every month. Imagine this vision for a moment: a world without suffering, a city without night, a home where every tear is wiped away. For believers, this is the ultimate promise, the hope that makes every trial worth enduring. But even in this vision, mysteries remain. Why is there no sea? Why are certain nations mentioned? Why does the city come down from heaven instead of being built on earth? Each question leads us deeper, showing that Revelation is not just about answers, but about endless exploration. And the next part of our journey will dive into these hidden mysteries, uncovering the layers of symbolism that stretch from Genesis to Revelation. And so the story continues, always opening new doors, always pulling us further in. Every symbol, every vision, every prophecy is like a puzzle piece in a grand design. Revelation is not just the last book of the Bible, it is the climax of history, the unveiling of God's plan for creation. And we are only beginning to scratch the surface. The next time we continue, we will peel back even more layers, tracing the hidden codes, the connections to world history, and the secrets that believers throughout the centuries have wrestled with. The next exploration will be even more astonishing, so stay with me, because the journey of Revelation is far from over. When we go further into Revelation, one of the most fascinating aspects we encounter is the way John uses numbers. Numbers in Revelation are never random. They are symbolic, layered with meaning, and deeply rooted in biblical tradition. Take the number 7, for example. It appears again and again. 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. 7 in the Bible represents completion, perfection, the fullness of God's plan. Revelation unfolds in cycles of 7 because it is describing the complete movement of history from beginning to end. But then, contrast that with the number 6, the number of man, the number of incompleteness, the infamous 666. This isn't just a mathematical puzzle. It is a theological statement. Without God, humanity falls short, incomplete, broken. And if the symbolism of 7 verses 6 is intriguing, just wait until we uncover the meaning of 12, of 42 months, of 1,000 years. The next exploration will show how Revelation uses numbers not only to structure its visions, but to reveal mysteries about time, eternity, and the unfolding of prophecy itself. Beyond numbers, Revelation is also a book of cosmic imagery. The stars fall from heaven, the sun turns dark, the moon becomes like blood. These are not random spectacles, they are signs drawing on ancient apocalyptic traditions. In the ancient world, cosmic disturbances always meant divine intervention. When the heavens shake, it means God is acting. Revelation uses this imagery to show that history is not just political or earthly, it is cosmic, involving heaven, earth, and everything in between. And notice how these images are tied to judgment. The natural world itself responds when God moves, stars vanish, mountains crumble, seas roar. It tells us that creation is not neutral. It participates in God's plan. And here is what makes it even more astonishing. The same cosmic imagery appears in Jesus' own words in the Gospels, and in the prophets like Joel and Isaiah. Revelation is pulling all of these together into one grand picture. The next layer will show how the heavens and the earth themselves testify to God's coming kingdom, and how those cosmic signs point toward events that may still lie ahead. Now let's turn to one of the most awe-inspiring visions in Revelation, the throne room of God in chapters 4 and 5. John is caught up into heaven, and what he sees is breathtaking. A throne with someone seated on it, surrounded by 24 elders, living creatures full of eyes, and countless angels singing, "Holy, holy, holy." This scene is not only majestic, it's central. Before the seals are opened, before the judgments fall, John sees the throne. That tells us something. Revelation is not about chaos, but about control. God's throne is at the center of everything. And then comes the scroll, sealed with 7 seals, which no one can open except the Lamb. The Lamb who was slain, standing as though alive, becomes the only one worthy to open history's plan. This is the heart of Revelation. The paradox that victory comes through sacrifice, that the slain Lamb is the conquering lion. It's a theme that echoes throughout the whole book. But here's the mystery we'll uncover next. What is in that scroll? Why 7 seals? And what does it mean that history itself can only be opened by the Lamb? As the seals are broken, the story unfolds in layers of increasing intensity. The first 4 seals bring forth the horsemen, symbols of conquest, war, famine, and death. But the 5th seal gives us something different, the souls of the martyrs under the altar, crying out for justice. This is one of the most haunting scenes in Revelation, because it asks a question we all wrestle with. How long, O Lord? The martyrs are told to wait, because history is not finished yet. This shows us that Revelation is not only about destruction. It's about patience, about the timing of God's justice. Then the 6th seal breaks, and the cosmos itself shakes. The sun darkens, the moon turns red, the stars fall. It is as if creation is preparing for the final moment. And just when we expect the 7th seal, Revelation pauses for a surprising interlude, the sealing of the 144,000, and the vision of a great multitude that no one can count. The next part will reveal why this pause matters, and what it tells us about God's mercy, even in the midst of judgment. The sealing of the 144,000 is one of the most debated passages in Revelation. Who are these people, sealed from the tribes of Israel, protected by God? Some say they are literal Jews, preserved for a special role in the end times. Others see them as a symbol of the church, the complete people of God. What's even more fascinating is that immediately after the 144,000 are listed, John sees a great multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language standing before the throne. The connection is powerful. The specific and the universal, the remnant and the multitude. Revelation shows us that God's plan includes both precision and expansiveness. And this dual vision 144,000 and countless multitude reminds us that Revelation is not about exclusion but inclusion, about drawing people from every corner of the earth. But the real question is, what does it mean to be sealed? And how does this sealing protect God's people in the midst of chaos? The next exploration will reveal how the theme of sealing connects to ancient traditions and points forward to the ultimate mark of God as people in eternity. Now let's move into another mysterious section, the two witnesses of Revelation 11. These figures prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth, performing signs and wonders. They are killed by the beast, their bodies lying in the street while the world rejoices. But then they are raised and taken up into heaven. Who are these witnesses? Interpretations vary widely. Some believe they are Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets. Others see them as Enoch and Elijah, two figures from Scripture who never died. Still others see them symbolically, as the church bearing witness in the world despite persecution. What's most striking is how their story mirrors the story of Christ's death, humiliation, resurrection, and vindication. Revelation places this story in the heart of its narrative as a reminder. The people of God will suffer, but they will also rise. And if this vision is compelling, the next one is even more astonishing. The woman clothed with the sun, pursued by the dragon, and her child destined to rule the nations. The vision of the woman and the dragon in Revelation 12 is one of the most dramatic symbolic stories ever told. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars, gives birth to a child. A great red dragon waits to devour the child, but the child is caught up to heaven while the woman flees into the wilderness. This scene is packed with meaning. Many see the woman as Israel, giving birth to the Messiah, and the dragon as Satan, seeking to destroy him. Others see the woman as the church, bringing forth the people of God, and the child as the faithful community destined to reign. The imagery is layered and expansive, showing the cosmic struggle between good and evil that has existed since the beginning of time. And then comes one of the most epic moments in Revelation, the war in heaven where Michael and his angels fight the dragon, casting him down to earth. But this is not the end of the dragon, it is only the beginning. The next part of Revelation will reveal how the dragon gives power to the beast, leading to one of the most feared and fascinating symbols in all of Scripture. The beast from the sea rises in Revelation 13, with 10 horns and 7 heads, resembling a leopard, bear, and lion all in one. It is given authority by the dragon and is worshipped by the world. This beast is not just a creature, it is a symbol of empire, of power corrupted by Satan. Many early Christians would have seen in it the Roman Empire, and in its blasphemous claims, the arrogance of Caesar. But Revelation makes the beast timeless, representing every empire and system that exalts itself against God. Then comes the second beast, the beast from the earth, who deceives the world, and causes all to receive a mark on their right hand or forehead, the infamous mark of the beast. For centuries, people have speculated about what this mark means. An ancient code, a political system, a future technology. Whatever it is, it symbolizes allegiance, a choice between the beast and the lamb. And just when the weight of this symbolism feels heavy, Revelation shifts again. showing us the Lamb standing on Mount Zion with the 144,000 singing a new song. The contrast could not be clearer. The beast demands worship, but the Lamb offers life. And the next part of Revelation will unveil how this choice between the beast and the Lamb shapes the destiny of all humanity. After the beasts rise and the mark is revealed, Revelation takes us into an even stranger vision, the harvest of the earth. Two figures appear, one like the Son of Man with a golden crown, and another angel with a sharp sickle. Together they reap the harvest of the world, one of grain and one of grapes, which are thrown into the winepress of God's wrath. The imagery is both agricultural and terrifying. Harvest in the Bible usually symbolizes the end of the age, the gathering of souls, the dividing of righteous and wicked. Here the earth itself is reaped. The grain is brought in, but the grapes are crushed until blood flows for miles. This is not just a farming metaphor. It is a warning that history will come to a final reckoning. And the image of blood flowing so far, almost unimaginable, tells us that this is not a small event, but a global moment. But just when it feels overwhelming, Revelation moves again, introducing 7 angels with 7 bowls of wrath. The next part will take us inside those bowls, each one intensifying the drama, and each one pushing history closer to its climax. The 7 bowls of wrath are poured out like a sequence of disasters that cover the earth. First comes painful sores on those who bear the mark of the beast. Then the sea turns to blood, and everything in it dies. Next, the rivers and springs also become blood, followed by the scorching of the sun, burning humanity with fire. Darkness falls on the kingdom of the beast, plunging it into agony. The 6th bowl dries up the great river Euphrates, preparing the way for kings from the east, while demonic spirits gather the nations for the battle of Armageddon. And finally, the 7th bowl unleashes a mighty earthquake and hailstones, shaking the very foundations of the world. Each bowl is not only a plague, but a reversal of creation itself. The seas, rivers, skies, and land all unravel. It's as if God is dismantling the world piece by piece, preparing for something new. And as terrifying as the bowls are, they lead us into one of the most chilling and captivating images yet. The fall of Babylon, the great city that represents the arrogance of human power. The next section will reveal how Babylon's downfall changes the course of the story. When Babylon falls, the entire world mourns. Revelation paints a picture of merchants weeping because no one buys their cargo anymore, kings lamenting because the city that made them rich is gone, and shipmasters standing at sea watching smoke rise from her ruins. The language is emotional, almost theatrical. This is not just the fall of a city. It is the collapse of a system, the end of a world order. Babylon is described as adorned in luxury, dripping with gold and jewels, yet guilty of bloodshed and immorality. Its destruction comes suddenly, like a stone thrown into the sea. And here's what makes this vision so powerful. It forces every reader to ask, where is my allegiance? Am I tied to Babylon or to the Lamb? The collapse of Babylon is not only about Rome, not only about one empire, it's about every system that sets itself against God. And once Babylon is destroyed, Revelation pivots dramatically from mourning to celebration. Heaven rejoices, voices sing, and a marriage feast is announced. The next part takes us straight into that celebration, the marriage supper of the Lamb. At the marriage supper of the Lamb, the contrast could not be greater. Babylon lies in ruins, but the bride of Christ stands ready, clothed in fine linen, bright and clean. This wedding is not just symbolic, it is the very purpose of history. All of Revelation has been moving toward this moment, where the Lamb unites with his people. The imagery of a wedding feast is one of joy, intimacy, and completion. Every guest is invited, but only those who belong to the Lamb can enter. The fine linen of the bride is described as the righteous deeds of the saints, showing that this is not about outward wealth, but inner faithfulness. This is the banquet that Jesus spoke of in his parables, the feast where the faithful are gathered for eternity. But as beautiful as this moment is, it leads immediately into something fierce. The rider on the white horse, who comes with armies to judge and to conquer. The next scene will reveal how this rider, with a sword from his mouth and fire in his eyes, changes everything. The rider on the white horse comes with names written that no one knows except himself, with a robe dipped in blood, and with armies clothed in white linen following him. His weapon is not a spear or bow, but the sharp sword of his word, reminding us that God's truth is stronger than any human weapon. This rider is called Faithful and True, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The image is meant to shock and inspire. This is not the meek lamb of sacrifice, but the conquering Messiah who brings justice to the nations. His victory is absolute. The beast and the false prophet are captured and thrown into the lake of fire. Their armies are defeated instantly, not by prolonged struggle, but by the sheer authority of Christ. It is a reminder that when the true King arrives, no power of darkness can stand. And yet, even here, Revelation doesn't stop, because while the beast is gone, the dragon still remains. The next vision will show what happens when Satan himself is bound, and how his final defeat sets the stage for the new creation. Satan, the dragon, is bound and thrown into the abyss for 1,000 years. This is the Millennium, a mysterious period when Christ reigns and his saints rule with him. The martyrs come to life, seated on thrones, and justice is established. But here's the shocking twist. After the 1,000 years, Satan is released for a short time. He gathers nations again, leading them to war against God's people. But fire comes down from heaven and consumes them. Then, finally, the devil is thrown into the lake of fire, joining the beast and the false prophet, never to deceive the world again. This raises profound questions. Why release Satan at all? Why allow evil one last stand? Perhaps it is to prove that rebellion cannot survive even under perfect conditions, or to show the completeness of God's justice. Whatever the reason, this moment marks the end of the dragon. And once Satan is gone, Revelation brings us to the most sobering scene, yet the great white throne judgment. The next part will reveal how this ultimate courtroom decides the fate of every soul. The great white throne judgment is described with breathtaking imagery. Heaven and earth flee from God's presence, leaving no place to hide. The dead, great and small, stand before the throne. Books are opened, records of deeds, and another book, the book of life, is revealed. Those not found in the book of life are cast into the lake of fire, which is called the second death. This vision strikes at the core of human destiny. No one escapes it, no title or wealth can avoid it, and nothing is hidden. It is the ultimate leveling of humanity. Yet even here, this terrifying moment is not the end, but a gateway. Because immediately after, Revelation unveils something breathtaking, a new heaven and a new earth. The judgment clears away the old, so the new can come. And the next vision is unlike anything before, a holy city descending from heaven, radiant with God's glory. The New Jerusalem is described with imagery that stretches imagination. A city shining like jasper, clear as crystal, with walls of precious stones and gates of pearl. The streets are pure gold, like transparent glass. The city has no temple, because God and the Lamb are its temple. There is no sun or moon, because the glory of God gives it light. Nations walk by its light. Kings bring their splendor into it, and nothing impure ever enters. At the center flows the river of the water of life, with the tree of life on its banks, bearing 12 kinds of fruit and leaves for the healing of the nations. This vision is not just architecture, it's theology and imagery. The city represents God's dwelling with humanity, the fulfillment of the promise that He will be our God and we will be His people. And even here, Revelation ends not with closure, but with invitation. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." It's both a warning and a promise. a reminder that the story is not finished. And this is exactly where our journey must continue next, because the mysteries of Revelation don't close with the final chapter. They spill outward into the present, into our world, into our choices today. The next exploration will reveal how the symbols of Revelation connect to our age, to history unfolding now, and to the future that is still yet to come. And as we move further, we arrive at one of the most mysterious yet often overlooked aspects of Revelation, the strange cosmic imagery that seems to blur the line between prophecy and vision. When John speaks of the woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars upon her head, many immediately wonder, who is this woman? Is she Israel, representing the chosen people of God? Is she the church, radiant with divine authority? Or could she be something even more symbolic, like the embodiment of creation itself, awaiting deliverance from the dragon? This is not just poetry. It's prophecy wrapped in layers of symbols. And if you thought that was fascinating, the next one will shake you even more, because it introduces the great dragon itself, that ancient serpent who wages war against her child. That child is destined to rule all nations, and the dragon will stop at nothing to prevent it. But here's the twist: the dragon does not stand alone. Suddenly, the text reveals not one, but 2 beasts that rise up to serve him, one from the sea and another from the earth. These beasts are not mere animals. They represent systems of power, empires, and deceptive authorities that enslave humanity. One of them even mimics a lamb, but speaks like a dragon, a chilling reminder that not every appearance of holiness is genuine. How many times in history have rulers, governments, or even religious institutions worn the mask of righteousness while serving darker agendas? This part of Revelation isn't simply ancient prophecy. It has been echoed in every era where corruption wears a cloak of virtue. And what comes next is even more intriguing, because this is where the infamous number 666 appears, a number that has fascinated and terrified generations. The number of the beast 666 is perhaps the most studied, debated, and misinterpreted symbol in the entire Bible. Was it code for Nero, the ruthless Roman emperor? Was it a cipher pointing to the oppressive empire of Rome itself? Or is it something timeless, meant to represent the fullness of imperfection, a counterfeit of divine completeness? For centuries, scholars, theologians, and even mathematicians have tried to unlock its meaning. Some have said it represents systems of economy that enslave. Others believe it is tied to technology in the modern world. Still, others suggest it is a sign of spiritual compromise. But what makes this passage even more chilling is how Revelation presents it, not as a mere number, but as a mark, a seal upon those who give their loyalty to the beast. And if that feels heavy, wait until you see the contrast, because Revelation doesn't just give us the mark of the beast. It also introduces the seal of God. Those sealed by God are protected, marked not by corruption, but by divine ownership. The imagery is powerful. While one group bears allegiance to the beast, another bears the name of the Lamb upon their foreheads. 2 groups, 2 destinies, and one cosmic struggle unfolding before our very eyes. This duality is not meant to scare, but to awaken us to a choice. Whom do we serve? And if you thought this contrast was sharp, wait until we enter the section of the 7 trumpets, because each trumpet blast doesn't just mark an event. It unveils a series of escalating judgments that grow more intense with every sound. When the trumpets begin to sound, the earth is shaken in ways humanity has never seen before. 1/3 of the earth's vegetation is burned, 1/3 of the seas are turned to blood, and 1/3 of the rivers become bitter as wormwood falls upon them. These are not random disasters. They are calculated, escalating judgments meant to shake humanity into awareness. But perhaps the most terrifying moment comes with the 5th trumpet, the release of demonic locusts, creatures unlike anything we can imagine, tormenting those who are unsealed. Their description is bizarre faces like humans, hair like women, teeth like lions, wings that thunder like chariots, and stingers like scorpions. These images may sound terrifying, but they are designed to capture attention and show that behind the veil of our reality, spiritual forces are at war. And if you thought locusts were strange, the next trumpet reveals something even darker, the release of 4 bound angels prepared for a specific hour, day, month, and year, leading to the death of a third of mankind. But even in the midst of such destruction, Revelation constantly reminds us there is a greater purpose. Every vision, every trumpet, every seal points forward to something far more glorious, the arrival of God's kingdom in its fullness. And that's why the book doesn't just describe horrors, it also unveils hope. The throne room scenes, filled with worship, remind us that heaven is not shaken, even when the earth is. The Lamb still reigns, even when beasts rage. And this brings us forward to one of the most dramatic moments in the entire book, the fall of Babylon. Babylon, in the Bible, is more than a city. It is a symbol of every empire, every culture, every system that sets itself up against God. In John's time, it likely pointed to Rome, the empire drunk with wealth, power, and oppression. But Revelation paints it in such vivid language that it becomes timeless. Babylon is described as a harlot, clothed in purple and scarlet, holding a golden cup filled with abominations. She rides upon a scarlet beast, intoxicated with the blood of the saints. And her fall is as dramatic as her rise within 1 hour. The merchants of the earth weep as her riches vanish. The kings mourn her destruction, and the sailors cry out as the great city is consumed by fire. This isn't just history. It's prophecy about every age, every empire that thought itself untouchable, only to collapse in ruin. And if that caught your attention, wait until we step into the climactic moment, the Battle of Armageddon. The kings of the earth are gathered together, lured by demonic spirits, to the place called Armageddon. The imagery is grand, epic, almost cinematic, the forces of good and evil colliding in one final confrontation. But here's the twist. The battle is not won with human weapons, but with the word of the Lamb, who rides forth as the victorious King of Kings and Lord of Lords. His robe is dipped in blood, not the blood of others, but his own sacrifice. And he speaks with a sword that comes from his mouth, a symbol of the living word of God that conquers every deception. This moment is the turning point, and it sets the stage for what is even more astonishing, the binding of the dragon, the 1,000-year reign, and the vision of the new heaven and new earth that follows. But here's the thing, we're not done yet. Because what comes after Armageddon, after the fall of Babylon, after the beast and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire, is something beyond imagination, the final judgment before the great white throne. The dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books are opened. Another book, the book of life, is opened, and those not found in it are cast into the second death. This sobering scene isn't the end of the story, it's the doorway to something new. Because right after that judgment, Revelation unveils the most breathtaking vision of all. The holy city, the New Jerusalem, descending like a bride adorned for her husband. Streets of gold, gates of pearl, and the very presence of God dwelling with humanity forever. No more tears, no more death, no more pain. The former things have passed away. But even as we marvel at this final vision, the book keeps us in suspense. Because hidden within its imagery are hints, mysteries, and layers that theologians are still uncovering. What does it mean that the leaves of the tree of life are for the healing of nations? Why is there no temple in the city? Because God himself and the Lamb are its temple. How do we interpret the water of life flowing from the throne? And if you thought the ending was simple, wait until we dive into these hidden treasures, because each one opens doors to deeper mysteries that connect Genesis to Revelation, the beginning of the story to its ultimate fulfillment. And even beyond that, the next part will reveal secrets you may have never heard before, clues that connect the visions of John to the prophecies of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah, weaving together one grand tapestry that stretches across the entire Bible. We've then now journeyed together through some of the most mysterious and powerful visions ever written in Scripture. From the unveiling of seals that shook heaven and earth, to the trumpet blasts that brought judgment and warning, to the terrifying rise of the beast and the fall of Babylon, we've seen how Revelation paints both a warning and a promise. We've uncovered the mark of the beast, the seal of God, the great dragon, the epic battle of Armageddon, and even the breathtaking vision of the New Jerusalem, where God himself dwells with humanity. Every chapter, every symbol, and every prophecy has been building layer upon layer, drawing us closer to understanding the greatest story ever told, the victory of the Lamb over darkness. And yet, as deep as we've gone, this is only the beginning. Because Revelation is not just about the end of the world, it's about the unveiling of truth, the pulling back of the curtain, and the eternal choice placed before every generation. There are still secrets hidden in its pages, mysteries that connect back to Genesis, Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah, and clues about the times we live in today. The next part of our journey will go even deeper, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. So if you've enjoyed this journey through the book of Revelation, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next powerful episode. Don't forget to like this video to let me know you're re-enjoying this deep dive, and share it with your friends and family, because who knows, they might discover something life-changing here too. And most importantly, drop a comment down below with your thoughts. What stood out to you the most? What questions do you still have about Revelation? Or maybe you've got your own interpretation of the symbols we've explored. I'd love to hear it. Your engagement not only helps this channel grow, but it also keeps this conversation alive as we explore the most fascinating and controversial book in the entire Bible together. The next part will be even more thrilling, so stay tuned, and remember this story is far from over.